Welcome to the Emerging Lawyer series at the Coffee Conversation Show, powered by the Emerging India Forum, TIF, and a tech partner, Prime Infotech Solution. Theme is From the Courtroom to the Classroom, Mastering Arbitration. We have with us Aman Vijay Dutta, an advocate, arbitrator, lecturer, and author. Aman is actively shaping the future of dispute resolution in India. His work spans complex business litigation, mediation, and arbitration, making him a respected voice in the legal community. As the author of the Handbook of Domestic Arbitration in India, a visiting professor at ILS Law College, and a member of the Mumbai Center for International Arbitration, Aman brings a unique blend of practical experience and academic insights. So, welcome, Aman, to today's coffee conversation. It is a pleasure to have with an author. So, I'll explain you who am I. So,
Thank
welcome
you,
to
sir.
today's coffee conversation. So, let me explain you the flow and the format. There are three rounds:
Yes.
professional journey round, personal journey round, and a surprise rapid fire round, for which you have to be witty, fun, and quick. And here's your gift: legal
Right.
AI, the one which will be autographed and sent to you.
Right.
So, friends, I'm Lion Amir Virani, host at Coffee Conversation and legal tech evangelist at Prime Infotech Solution, author of 15 books. We help law firms, corporate legal, startups, SMEs with world-class technology, software licensing, and tech training solutions. So, my first question, Aman, what inspired you to specialize in arbitration and dispute resolution rather than traditional litigation?
First of all, thank you, sir, for having me here. Now, getting to the question, there was nothing in particular that I had in mind when I began practice. I never thought of specializing in arbitration work as such. In fact, my goal from the beginning, after I began work, was to basically get into only litigation work. And arbitration was always, I viewed it as almost like a side gig of sorts, if I may call it that. But as luck would have it, I was in my second year as a lawyer. I started working on one arbitration while I was at AZB and Partners. And that was quite heavy in the sense that it wasn't necessarily um, a very, very high stakes matter. It was high stakes, of course, but uh, the sheer bulk of volume in that matter was such that it required hours and hours. I spent almost maybe 3 years working on that case. So once I had spent that time, put in those hours on that one arbitration, it sort of became second nature. And so one thing led to another after that, and I kept getting arbitration work. And before I knew it, I was specializing in arbitration. So it's not something I thought of, basically.
Wow. So, Aman, many businesses prefer arbitration over court litigation.
Yes.
What are some misconceptions about arbitration that you often encounter?
Uh, the biggest misconception that I've seen is that when it comes to the really big organizations or businesses, of course, they are aware of what arbitration is. But a lot of the smaller businesses or businessmen, HNIs, and so on and so forth, still perceive arbitration to be uh, a sort of, they almost confuse it to be a mediation sometimes. So I've heard this. If I had a dime for every time I heard this, where someone says, "Ha, to we will do an arbitration, and we'll do a settlement through arbitration." So when they say settlement through arbitration, what they think is that this is some kind of a settlement discussion that you sit under a tree and have and things like that. So that is the biggest misconception. They don't understand that arbitration is very much like a litigation, just that it happens in a different setting and with slightly tweaked rules of procedure, uh, and at an additional cost, of course. Uh, but so this is the first misconception and the biggest one. At least you see in cities like Pune, which is where I'm based, arbitration is something which is only picking up now, over the last, I'd say, 5 years to a decade at best. So that is that is definitely one major misconception. The other is, and again, the same thing, when people have somehow been told that the arbitration award is final. So what they presume it to be is that there is no further appeals. So the moment an award is passed, it's almost like, here's the award, now I'm going to get my money. They don't understand that Section 34, 37 appeals, and even an appeal to the Supreme Court is possible. So these two, and as soon as they understand these things, they suddenly say, oh, then what's the point? Now, what they don't understand is that it still ends up being a much, much faster process than any other regular litigation. So these, I would say, are the biggest misconceptions domestically and in the uh, not so bigger cities, if I may put it that way.
Beautiful. Okay. So, Aman, you have handled a wide range of disputes.
Yes.
Is there a particular case that has been most memorable or challenging for you, and how did you navigate it?
Surprisingly, it is not an arbitration, surprisingly, because there was this one case that came to me. It was before the National Green Tribunal. We have the bench, the Western Zone bench in Pune. And this client happened to be known to my father very well. And this case began in 2016 when I became a lawyer, but I was, of course, working at Haryani and Company at the time. So I knew of the case, but I wasn't working on it. Uh, this client of mine was quite confident. He was challenging an environmental clearance to a slum rehabilitation scheme. And it was against one of Pune's most prominent developers. So who's a very established name and, well known. And what ended up happening is that while he did sort of start strong before the NGT, they got some kind of, it was an NGO that was, with the client and things like that. They got an interim order, but then the final application itself, the original application, was dismissed. Then the client by then had gone to the Bombay High Court, had gone to the Supreme Court on some other points, went to the NGT in review, lost everywhere. And so finally, this was in 2020. So when he had finally, sort of lost all hope, he, I was independent by then, and he then came to me saying, I mean, I couldn't possibly have spoiled the matter any further, right? So he said, can you take this up? I said, look, there's nothing to do anymore. I mean, the Supreme Court itself has dismissed your petition. So anyway, but I saw it as an opportunity, so I took it on, and we worked a lot on that one case, and finally got to a point where we found there was this famous judgment of the Supreme Court and Forward Foundation. So we found that judgment, found some violations, sort of tied it all together, saying why this case was not done and dusted yet. And we went to the NGT again, and this time we got a favorable order. So, and it was, yes, it was before 5 judges. Just to admit the petition, they heard me, and they admitted it. And that litigation finally got disposed of, and the opponent in question, a few years later, became my client. So that is something that, I wish it was an arbitration, but it isn't. So that's the one that's
Interesting.
yes.
So, Aman, how do you see arbitration evolving in India compared to international dispute resolution mechanisms?
India is, I don't mean this in a condescending way, or I don't mean it pessimistically, but we are quite far behind in that sense. So to, I would never compare India, at least as of now, to the overall international arbitration landscape. Your institutions like the LCIA, the SIAC, the ICC, they have been there for times immemorial. India, on the other hand, sure, now we have the MCI, which I think is pretty much at the forefront of, sort of streamlining institutional arbitration and things like that. But when you look at India as a whole, from a bird's eye perspective, it's only to a select few within the business ecosystem that arbitration is available right now. And more importantly, to whom good representation in arbitration is available. Because the big ticket arbitration work that happens in India, at least domestically, is obviously going to be with the big firms and the specialists or the super specialists, if I may say that. And of course, then the expenses, arbitrators' fees, lawyers' expenses, and all are quite high in that sense. So for us to get to a point where we are at par and in the overall international landscape, I think from a bird's eye view, is there's still a long time. You see, what happens is with all the talk about international arbitration, what we lose sight of is the fact that we can't look at a Bombay or a Delhi and say this is what arbitration in India is. If you're talking about India entirely, arbitration in India then refers to an arbitration perhaps which is happening in Nainital, an arbitration which is happening in Coimbatore. I mean, any city. And it's there that that focus has sort of been missing for a while. So unless and until that happens, I don't think we can ever say that we are at par. But of course, there are institutions like the MCI. In Pune, we have the ILSCA, the Indian Law Society Center for Arbitration. I think the ILSCA has taken some really monumental initiatives in that sense. They've gone all in. You also have the Delhi International Arbitration Center. I think in Madras, you have the Inani Palkhiwala International Arbitration Center. So it's happening. Institutional arbitration is on the rise. Perhaps that will help. But still a few years before we get there. But I speak for India as a whole right now. So in that context.
Thank you for leading me to my next question. You are an associate member of the Arbitration Bar of India and a member of Young MCIA.
Yes.
Tell us about both the associations and how important. I'm dividing into two parts.
Yes.
Second part is how important is networking for lawyers in the field of arbitration dispute resolution?
So there are two parts to this question. I'll answer the first one first. I became a member of the MCI just last year, I think. And same with the Arbitration Bar of India also. The Arbitration Bar of India, in fact, was announced on the 3rd of May 24. So it's relatively new. It is very, I think, monumental in the sense that for the first time now, there was a Law Commission report that came out, which had said that to bolster the arbitration practice and framework of our country, we should have a dedicated arbitration bar. So that's when and I believe this was 2015, if I'm not mistaken. So it's taken almost a decade for that to happen, but it did happen. So that I think is, there could not be a bigger declaration of how serious we are as the legal profession in our country is, as far as an arbitration practice is concerned. That's the first thing. Speaking of the MCIA, of course, it's probably at the forefront of leading India's, charge in the international arbitration landscape. And even institutionally, they do a lot with the Young MCIA initiative and things like that. And you have the who's who are contributing to the MCIA. So that's that. I am a member, but unfortunately, I haven't been able to participate in any of their ventures yet. I intend to change that in this year, but I haven't been able to do that yet. Networking is, I think, so networking has different connotations, right? I mean, when you're looking at any business in that sense, networking perhaps means more business. When it comes to the legal profession, sure, it can mean that, no doubts. But more than that, I think, because we are such a knowledge-intensive profession, the networking benefits more in intangibles, in the sense that you meet people, you meet the who's who, you pick their brain. If you've, sort of gotten into these institutions with the intent to learn, and you sort of hone your skills, learn by osmosis, things of the like. So I think that is definitely very, very important. It's opened up the world of arbitration to people who don't really know too much about it, right? So a lawyer who is not necessarily in a city which is on the international arbitration map, so to speak, in India, can find their way through these institutions. So, of course, the benefits are, I mean, you can keep counting one after the other. But yes, I think networking in that context.
It's very, I've been fortunate to have coffee conversation with Arush Khanna,
Right.
TIIB, Anirudh,
Yes.
who's representing apna multiple international
Yes.
uh, arbitration journey. Yeah, the other speakers also who have been
Right.
apna will be featured,
Yes.
and you. So I'm seeing a bit young arbitration lawyers from India are going
Yes.
globally and being part of what do you say, the system out there, the communities out there, and
Yes.
making India proud.
Yes. I mean, I think some of the names that you've taken, especially Mr. Anirudh Krishnan, he's one of those. He was, in fact, if I'm not mistaken, even part of one of the committees for this Law Commission report. I think it was the 2015 or 17 report. So, I mean, he's definitely, one of those leading the charge. I really look up to him. So, yes,
Watch
there is
Arush's
good
episode
hype.
also.
Yes.
Arush has gone for, he's explained about how to become a FCAIB course. So he has
Okay.
done that. And he's also a member of International Bar Association.
Okay. Okay.
He's an officer.
Right. Right.
So
So I
I'm
will.
glad कि by through coffee, I'm getting to know कि there are other arbitration episodes I've done, but
Yes.
the level they have gone. And
Right.
when I had done with Arush was my first episode of the year
Okay.
on
The-
1st Jan
Okay.
2025.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
And he told his wife, I'm going for a coffee shoot. So his wife asked him, are you going with coffee with Karan?
Right. Right.
So, our coffee speakers have this fun banter within the family. When they say कि we are going for coffee conference shoot, so
Right.
Karan will come up. Yeah, Karan is in my inspiration.
Right.
So let's go to your next journey because I see your journey now. I'm covering part by part.
Right.
So, what made you to become an author, and how was experience writing this book, a book on domestic arbitration in India, and what does it cover?
Uh, so the book is quite simple in its view. In fact, I have it here. So it's quite simple in its approach. What I realize is, like I said, uh, it's if we want arbitration itself to grow within India nationally, we need to be conversant with our uh, domestic framework well enough. And we discussed a few of the misconceptions also. So what I realized is that, especially in a city which is not like a Bombay or a Delhi or things like that, you need something which is a little more basic in its approach, but equally advanced in its content. Because you can't have like a step-by-step guide in the sense when it comes to legal books. And so when I did my first arbitration, I didn't necessarily have a guide of sorts. So I pretty much learned on the job, and I felt that a book like, say, Sir Dinshaw Mullah he had written a book called The Key to Indian Practice. That became my Bible when it came to going to civil court. It still is. So, in fact, I literally have a copy of that book in my car at all times. So, I thought, it would be nice if we could put together something like this for domestic arbitration only. So, that was the intent, that if somebody sort of wants to get into arbitration work or somebody gets an arbitration, you can't predict what kind of work you're going to get after a point. So they should have something which keeps them prepared, a tool of sorts. That was the intent with the book. How it came about is because I wasn't necessarily the most academic person, neither in school nor in college. I read a lot, certainly, but not from an academic perspective. And so it sort of I wasn't sure whether I'll get a publisher and things like that. But fortunately, it all worked out. I had two publishers who wanted to publish the book, and even before I had completed it in that sense. So I was less than half of my book. I was into less than half of the book and I had two publishers. So it all worked out. I mean, I was fortunate. So that was how the book happened. Yes.
So next thing is how does one young legal professional go for this book?
Sorry.
How does young legal professionals want to enter the world of
Yes.
arbitration and want
Yes.
your book?
Yes.
Is it available online or how is it?
Yes, it was available on Amazon with almost all prominent booksellers. They had it online. I believe it's now the copies are sold out. So we are going, yes. So we are sort of the publishers have taken up a separate print run now, and
Mhm.
I believe one or two websites still have a few copies in stock, but you won't get it on Amazon perhaps for the next couple of weeks. After which it will be out in circulation again. So
Please create a special link. So we'll share with
I will
uh, for the Coffee Tribe community members so they can
act
go
as
for
the
it. And
yes.
this way, all the coffee speakers are connected.
Right, right. No, I will do that.
Okay, let's continue our conversation. Uh, you believe in giving back
Hmm.
uh, to your arbitration legal world.
Yes.
So, how was being part as a visiting professor at your college, ILS Law College?
Yes.
How did it come about, and what are your memories, and how do you plan out your teaching stint?
Hmm. Uh, I so it happened very in a very by chance manner. I never really seriously considered going to ILS because, quite frankly, in my mind, I thought, why would they have me? And uh, but it so happened that I was in touch with the college. I was in touch with some of my professors. I'd keep going back to, they'd invite me to judge a moot court competition or things of the like. And I'm in Pune, so that's an advantage. And I
Hmm.
every once in a while I go back to college just to take a stroll. It's nice. The environment is very calming. And so I was in touch with one of my professors, Dr. Suvarna Nilak, and she reached out to me sometime, I believe that was 2024, yes, 24, last year. And she asked me if I was, willing to take up the arbitration lectures for a few days. So I did that and I thoroughly enjoyed it. But I'd been teaching before that. I had been teaching students at the Nikmar University. So that was where I really, really got my sort of first taste of it. And these are not law students at Nikmar University. They are usually, business administration students. So I think it's a lot more difficult to teach them law because they're so far, far away from it. So I found that to be a good sort of training ground of sorts. And I will most likely now go back to ILS in the forthcoming semester to teach something perhaps. So
Oh,
I think quite frankly, the level at which these students are mentally and intellectually today is far, far more superior. So I can go on to say, go to the extent of saying that even the average student who's not too interested is still a lot more aware than the brightest from our batch. I guess that's evolution. So
wow.
that's they're really sharp.
Wow. So let's go to your next, what do you say, multiple hat you're wearing.
Yeah.
How did you become a speaker,
Yeah.
and what preparations do you make for being a speaker at events and lectures?
Uh, when I was younger as a child, my mother put me into elocution class. So but I wasn't necessarily one of the brighter ones at elocution class. I was quite average. And I mean, I still think I'm quite average, but I mean, back then, that's how it began. But for some reason, as a child, this was something that I was told again and again by my parents and especially by my mother that I was a good speaker. So you see the impact that your sort of childhood can have. So even if I may not be a good speaker, I was told that so many times by my parents, I started believing I'm a good public speaker. So that was how it began. I would take part in a couple of debates and things like that in school, but nothing too serious. Uh, and when I finally became a lawyer, I
Mm.
the reason I became a lawyer was because I enjoyed basically arguing, speaking. I don't mean arguing in the argumentative sense, but
Mhm.
basically articulating my thoughts. I think
Yeah.
we all enjoy that as human beings. It's very inherent within us. So I mean, just one thing led to another, and then I just got a couple of opportunities to teach, perhaps, or speak here, speak there, and I just took them. But as far as the preparation part of it goes, I used to, and I did this in moot courts. I got into mooting quite late in college, in my fourth year or something. And I was always, semi-final caliber. I never made it to any final in that sense. But it was there that I realized that I could speak extempore and do reasonably well. So that carried me on for a long time. I never prepared or planned and spoke, but that changed once I started teaching because I realized that now it's not philosophical musings. So you have to have like a structure in place. You need to get into the mind of your students. So
Mhm.
now I prepare. I prepare a lot before I speak. I put it down on paper. Um, I use handwritten notes because typed notes don't do it for me. And then I have them scanned and then use them on the iPad. So that's that's all that I do now.
Wow.
So
Beautiful. One more episode I'm recommending you to watch. We have done with Sakshat Dugal.
okay.
He's 17 times been a TEDx speaker. One of
Oh
the
wow.
key points he said, it is all about the audience.
Yes, yes. You have to
My preparation, what the
depends
audience
on who
wants.
the audience is. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes. So you also said that thing. That's
Yes.
why I related.
Joining the do.
So
Absolutely.
I'm planning something, a fireside chat with my coffee speakers who take up the speakers assignments. So
I know.
Sakshar,
Right.
many are there
Right.
who go for. Okay,
Absolutely. Absolutely. We'd love
your
to.
experience being and how you want to scale up your speaker's journey. And here we
Yes.
have Sakshar.
Correct.
We can
Correct.
take inspiration and his learnings. Yeah. So
Right.
17 times. So I was so there were a lot of questions during the coffee conversation. Now
Right.
let's go. We have covered a lot of your interesting journey. We
Right.
are coming to this part. AI is everywhere. With AI
Correct.
and legal tech advancing rapidly, how
Yes.
do you see technology shaping the future of arbitration and legal practice?
Uh, I don't have very pro AI views. I'll be very honest with you. There are reasons for that. Uh, when we speak of the impact that AI will have or on the practice of the law, yes, certainly. I think there already is an impact. Uh, Unchecked use of AI, however, is a problem. I think in
Yeah.
the US, we saw a case now where there was a lawyer, an attorney who drafted some pleadings and filed something in court using AI. And I think it cited a judgment which was not in existence. So I think what a lot of people are doing is they are misunderstanding the use case itself. Uh,
Mm.
when I don't speak for transactional lawyers because I honestly don't know what it is that they do in that sense, how it can be of use to them. I'll speak only for litigation or arbitration lawyers. And your question was that. So
Yeah.
uh, I think the the core of what we do, uh, if we want to evolve and grow as professionals, cannot change because of AI. It's very simple. Say I am working on a list of dates and events. Now I know of about two or three softwares at the very least, which are focused on giving you a chronological account of basically converting data into information. So
Mhm.
uh, it makes life easy. Absolutely, it does. But if we were to rely singularly on that or majorly on that, I believe it, sir, takes away from the our own intellectual stimulation or development. How am I going to argue a brief if I haven't sort of worked out the chronology in my own mind? So it can obviously is being used, should be used also perhaps, but that can't be our primary use. That can't be the first thing you do when a brief comes to you. Uh, Predictive analytics, I believe, is now sort of picking up. You have your NLP, and I forget that particular word for generative AI and things like that, which are taking things to a whole new level. And of course, they are here to stay and are not all bad. But we need to be honest with ourselves as litigation or arbitration lawyers and make sure that we do it, use it to make our life easy, but not to come up with churn out substantive work, because AI is still in that phase where it sometimes hallucinates and comes up with things, right? So, but it's definitely in the longer run will be of some use as long as we utilize it the right way, not to take shortcuts.
Very true. Very
Shortcuts
true.
where they are not required. When it's required, perhaps you can, but as a litigator, I think it becomes the game is entirely different. And the
Yeah.
more you spend those, this whole concept of productive hours and this, that, and all, I don't think can apply to litigation after a point. So,
Yes.
so for that reason, I feel it's still early days. But when you look at it from purely administering hearings or litigations, there certainly, I mean, the fact that we are doing this over Zoom, technology, not AI, technology. I mean, that's clearly one of the biggest benefits. Virtual hearings have been a boon to lawyers like me who are not seated in a Delhi or a Bombay. We can do hearings that way now. We are doing so many of them. You also have your other softwares, which are not, like I said, not necessarily AI, but your liquid text that integrated with, everything which is online now in terms of e-filings and things like that. So definitely, it's really eased things up. But legal research and drafting work, I think the base of any item of work that we uh, come up with has to be our doing. Otherwise, we won't evolve as lawyers.
Intellectual stimulation, as you said.
Yeah, absolutely.
So now, uh, Aman, who has been the biggest influence in your life, professionally and personally, and what were the key learnings?
I mean, there's not one single person, but obviously the first are my parents, uh, in very different ways. They've both come up the hard way in life, a really hard way. So I've sort of seen the work ethic that they had. But I must confess, it's only over the last few years that I've started to imbibe their work ethic. It wasn't always there. But I've learned that from them, being honest to your work. That's important. Uh, Not taking shortcuts in the sense that, sort of taking the easy path for quicker rewards is something that was wired in very early on. And so they have been my biggest influence. They've been my biggest critics also, and my biggest sort of cheerleaders also. So I guess that's how it should be. Uh, Apart from that, outside of that, I've also learned a lot from my brother. I have an older brother. He's always been someone I've looked up to. So him. And outside of work, I've always had. I've been very, very incredibly lucky. I mean, I think undeservedly lucky in that sense. Uh, Mrs. Madhvi Haryani and Mr. Amit Haryani, they gave me my first job. So they've and you see, I always had a very low self-image. So when I was doing an internship with their firm, till then I never thought I could amount to anything. Uh, and I had pretty much I was doing an internship, but I didn't think a job would come out of it. So, but they gave me that. So I think that was the first time in life I felt that I could do something. So they obviously they were and they continue to be. Uh, and just one more person that I would say, because these are genuinely the people who have influenced my career and life in many ways. There is a mentor, a friend, a client uh, who was in fact my first client and who gave me my crack at arbitration work also. His name is Mr. Vineet Bagai. So these people have, yes, they've all influenced in very different ways.
Wow.
Yeah.
So my last one. If you had to give one piece of advice to aspiring legal professionals, especially those interested in dispute resolution, arbitration, what would it be?
Uh, the only one advice I would give is don't uh, just look at it. You see, this is something, this is one of those things. I'll just have to give an analogy for this. If someone watches this and they really wanted to register, when we are specially studying for our, board exams and things like that, we are always told in those vacation, that 1 month vacation that we have before the exam, where you're probably on your third revision now and you're kind of bored and you're saturated. And so you'll be watching TV. I remember this, and my mom and dad, they would always tell me, listen, just study, this time won't come back, things like that. Uh, doesn't matter how well you do. At the end of it, when the result is out, you always, as human beings, we want more, right? So even if you've done well, you'll always say, you know what, I wish I hadn't watched that TV that day. I would have probably gotten that 2% extra. So anyway, that's the parallel. It's only something you realize many years later. Like that, I've had about 9 years behind me in this profession now. The one thing I've learned is this: when they say that don't go after money and really focus on only learning in the few initial years, it's not to sort of not look at the money part of it or the financial part of it. But if you're doing litigation and arbitration, your focus really has to be on building yourself, and the rest of it just literally is clockwork after a certain point. It may be relative for everyone, but it happens. And so the only thing I would say is just really focus on learning it as an art form, nothing else. And it becomes incredibly enjoyable after you start looking at it that way.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So let's go to the next round and understand Aman as a person. You've
Yes.
covered a lot of things in the professional journey round. So I'll skip some of the questions. What's your go-to stress buster after a long day of legal battles and academic responsibilities?
Uh, I don't do it often enough, but swimming is almost, it's meditative to me. So I am very erratic. I don't do it as much as I would like to, but that's been the most effective.
Wow. So how does a perfect weekend look for Aman?
Um, I sleep. I like to catch up on sleep a lot. So, but that's usually only possible on Sundays. Uh, so maybe enough sleep, lots and lots of coffee, uh, maybe a book or two, or just some very long judgment, which I have not had the opportunity to read during the week. Something like that.
Wow. So you're leading me to my next question. What's one book, movie, or web series that has impacted you and you would recommend?
The one, I'll say movie first because it's easy. It's the Godfather. I in fact even quoted it in my TED talk. I and it's not because I like mafia genre movies or something. It's I believe there's a lot of depth to that film. There's
Yeah.
It doesn't matter who you are, where you are, what you do. Everyone can learn a thing or two from that film. So the do's and the don'ts of life. Godfather is the movie. Um, a book would be either the Alchemist. I believe that's probably one of the most powerful and underrated uh, books in terms of learning things about yourself, and also Think and Grow Rich. Not necessarily for not from a financial goal standpoint. I think what the book sort of conditions you to, how it conditions you to think, it applies to every walk of life. Like I've literally I can say this, that the handbook on domestic arbitration in India is in no small measure there because of that book. So
Wow.
I really learned a lot from that. So these two, yes.
Wow.
You also said show. I think Goliath is something I've been hooked on to of late. So that's a nice show.
Wow.
Yes.
So you're leading me to my conversations. There's one, what do you say, a trainer
Yes.
on Think and Grow Rich.
Hmm.
I recollect his name. I would ye, do his course also. So as you said, Kibai, you're getting, it's not about finance. It's
Yes.
about the
Yes.
mindset and everything. So I'll
Absolutely.
share his details
Okay.
and also personally connect with him to offer a special price for one of our coffee speakers to go do that.
Right. Thank you.
And he's doing good work
Right.
of
It's
in this about the book. He's got his own academy and all those things. He does a speaker sessions. I'll just share the details. That is one thing.
and
And
it's
second thing,
almost psychology, Think and Grow Rich.
yeah,
It's more to
there is
do with
one more book
psychology
we
than
should read: The
yes.
Psychology of Money.
Yes, Morgan Housel. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I in fact I read it about a year ago. I did.
Ooh.
But the thing was, when I read that book, Think and Grow Rich, actually it was a book that was gifted to me by an uncle of mine after I finished my 10th standard. And he wrote a very nice note at the end of it,
Oh.
and gave that book. Now, uh, I funnily enough, I didn't read it for almost 10 years after that. But after that, when I finally did, I keep going back to it. So if nothing, they have a lot of short stories that sort of keep you up, like that Edward Darby related story and all that, 3 feet from gold. So whenever you're low, you probably just read a few pages and you're fine again. So
So please share me that book
I
where
will,
he wrote a note.
I will,
I'm
I
planning
will.
something on this book, you think. I'll
Right.
keep this note ka thing and we'll share with you and then post on social media. So very wonderful kid. 10th standard, he gave you that book. So
Yes, yes.
what was the thought process behind that? Your
I
uncle,
with
it
him,
is beautiful.
yes, it really is. It with so my uh, family in that sense, my father and my uncle, they sort of started business together. My father came in first, sort of laid the foundation. My uncle joined him after that, and they both really came up the hard way in that sense, and
Hmm.
they didn't have the kind of support that I've had, growing up. So I think somewhere they wanted us to know that it's not always easy and all of that. But if we've gotten this far without having anything, you are living a very, very fine life. So you can apply these same principles and sort of take it forward, do whatever you want from in life productively. So I think that was the thought, to sort of uh, give the idea that yes, anything is possible in that sense.
That's
So
beautiful.
very nice thought. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. For a young 10th standard graduate to
Yes,
give this kind of book to prepare him. So
yes,
that's why what is the thought process behind him? Okay, he's a foresight person,
yes, yes.
visionary.
Just basically, uh, this is something that you will need for the rest of your life. Or, if
Yeah,
you want to sort
a
of build,
beautiful book. The
yeah,
Psychology of Money is a very beautiful book.
right.
Now, you said something, one more discovery from during the conversation, just recently said, okay, you're a TEDx speaker. How did
Yes.
this journey come up? Please
It's
share.
it's really really fun, almost miraculous in some way, because uh, I had really thought of it about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, that I'd like to do a TEDx talk. I mean, I genuinely had thought of it. Um, what happened is, in fact, also I forget the name of the author. It's unfortunate, but when I did decide, I in fact bought a copy of this book called Talk Like TED. Uh, I never read it, but I haven't read it yet. But I got that copy and I said, you know what, if I intend to do a TED talk at some point, I'd love to have something to. And there is an advocate.
So, Aman, thank you for leading me. And another interesting facet of yours, okay, you
Right.
also have been a TEDx speaker. So how
Yes.
did this thing come about? Can you share us?
Yes, sir. I attended a TED talk by uh, Mr. Tariq Khan. He's an advocate. He was also the registrar of the IAMC, and now I believe is a partner with a firm in the UAE in Dubai. And anyway, so what happened is I had been following him for a while. He had written a book which I purchased in 2017, and he then also sort of I had been following him for a while, knew of him and things like that. So I realized that I learned from some of my interns that he was coming to ILS Law College. This was in 2023 for TEDx. So my interest was only to sort of meet him because I didn't have any other way of accessing him. So I went down there to meet him and sort of got to know him, and I waited on and attended his TED talk. And that's when I first, uh, sort of felt, okay, fine, you know what, this is a nice experience to have. And of course, we knew what TED is. So, but I never did anything about it in the sense that I just thought, okay, at some point I'd like to do a TED talk. That's all. And then it just so happened that in this year's TEDx event, they just reached out to me saying that, we'd like you to speak. So I said, absolutely. I mean, uh, and I was quite excited because it's something that had been on my to-do list in that sense. So I didn't, I mean, I didn't really think too much about it. Just sort of one of those things that happened to fall in place. And I did choose a very different topic though. I didn't want to speak on something which is too conventional. I wanted to speak about something which is very much a ground reality, but isn't necessarily spoken of. You see, I feel that somewhere in our profession, because of how it originated, there are a lot of things that should be spoken about but are not. Um, no one knows why, but it's that way. So I sort of thought it was time that at least when whatever I can do, should do to change that. So hopefully that will
Wow.
register with younger lawyers and uh, change how they see the legal profession.
So,
So
Aman, if you could travel anywhere in the world for a vacation for 2025, where would it be and why?
uh, any place that has mountains. In fact, I am going someplace like that. But if there was one place that I had to choose where I could literally keep going every year, that would be anywhere in Bhutan because I've been there and
Wow.
it's, yeah, so Bhutan.
If your friends had to describe you in three words, what would it be?
Fortunately, they aren't there to answer this. But I think they'd probably say uh, resilient. I'm sure they'd say that. Uh, they'd say uh, maybe slightly short-tempered, if that's one word, and uh, fun. I mean, fun for sure. So,
Wow. So, what's a hidden talent or hobby that most people don't know about you, Aman?
uh, I'm a good mimic. I can mimic people well. It takes a lot of comfort. I have to be comfortable around those people. But my closest friends, I can mimic pretty much anyone well enough. So
Wow, that's interesting.
yeah.
So, my last one is a googly one. Describe Aman in one line.
Um, wow, these are some. Uh, I'd say, I mean, I can't. I can only say someone who's quite steadfast when he knows what he wants.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, let's go to next round and have some fun, the rapid fire round. Your go to comfort food.
Pizza.
Wow. Courtroom or arbitration room?
uh, if trials are conducted the way they should be conducted, then courtroom. But that doesn't happen, so arbitration room.
Nice one. Litigation or mediation?
Litigation, always.
Wow. Early morning or late nights?
Late nights.
One word that describes your work ethic.
Uh, Complete. As in, yeah, get the job done kind of complete.
Favorite color?
Green.
Wow. Uh, Best place to visit in Pune?
In Pune.
Yeah. For
There is
food?
a place called,
If,
I do have a place. There is a place called Salon ke Vihar where I grew up. It's like a world in itself. So I go there once in a while. In fact, I wrote the last chapter of the handbook over there. I finished it there. So yes, that's the best place.
so, a place you'd recommend to for having food in Pune?
Oh, my mother's kitchen. I mean, she's
Then we'll all
brilliant.
come over.
No, she's generally a very she is a brilliant cook. So yes,
Wow. That's
yeah.
all. One law you wish could be simplified in India.
Civil procedure and evidence.
So you did well, and this is the book. I know
Thank,
AI.
thank you.
You're getting used
I
to
really do look
AI
forward to
thing, but
yes.
yes,
No, I mean, because you need to know something well enough before you have like a concrete opinion, and I don't know it well enough. So hopefully that will simplify things
yeah,
for
yeah.
me.
Simplify things.
Yes.
So, friends, it was a lovely conversation having with Aman, who's wearing multiple hats. So, this is what a coffee speaker brings to the table, being a arbitration lawyer, then a speaker, author, lecturer, and now a TEDx speaker. So, that is what he believes his life to be a miracle. So,
Yes.
and two things he shared, arbitration is all about an art and articulation. So, all those young lawyers out there, watch this episode, how to become a good arbitration lawyer, a dispute lawyer, and how networking does help and being part of organizations. This is what a coffee speakers offers those insights during the conversation. And so subscribe to our channel, The Coffee Conversation Show, where there are 400 plus different coffee speakers sharing their journey, inspiring, and infamily featured like Aman. So fill a form at the Emerging India Forum, and we would invite you to have coffee conversation and make it a memorable one. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Virani. Thank you for having me and thank you for the invitation. Thank you.